Returning to the Middle East now, Rishi Sunak has finally spoken to Benjamin Netanyahu. I think either the line was wrong, I don't know. Following the Iranian drone attack at the weekend, warning to Benjamin Netanyahu that retaliation would deepen insecurity in the Middle East.
Well, this comes as the EU and US say that they are looking at plans to impose further sanctions on Iran.
Joining us now is former British Army Colonel Hamish de Bretton-Gordon. Hamish, a very good morning to you. We'll talk about Cameron in a sec, but I know this is going to go down like a lead balloon, my friend, but it's a different way to start. I mean, apparently he didn't take his call for several days. Is Rishi Sunak and the United Kingdom... is Benjamin Netanyahu going to listen to us? Because, frankly, for a while, it didn't seem like he was even listening to the United States of America. Are we as bigger players on the world stage as we like to think we are, Hamish?
Well, I think diplomatically, we probably are. And as you say, Netanyahu didn't speak to anybody in the aftermath of our support to him downing all those missiles and drones coming in from Iran. And I'm glad that David Cameron is getting about the place now and is across the Middle East, because at least he is a credible person that people know in the Middle East. And I think he speaks pretty sensibly. So hopefully he will get a hearing with Netanyahu. We have done them a great service, I think. I personally think if we can shoot drones down over the Middle East, why on earth we're not doing them over Ukraine to save lives there is really a topic we should discuss.
It's a very interesting one, Hamish. That is.
Very, very interesting point. I just wanted to ask as well, it obviously took Netanyahu several days to answer the phone call to Rishi. We've heard that that's because he didn't want to speak to anybody who was going to advise for Israel, not to retaliate against Iran's strike. What does that say about a relationship between allies, that they're not willing to take a phone call and take that advice in the aftermath of such an attack in which we helped?
Well, I mean, it's a good question. But this, of course, is what's been reported in public. You know, I'm sure you guys know, an awful lot goes in the shadows and unreported. So one would hope that things are being discussed there. But yeah, it's on a knife edge. Of course, we don't want the Israelis to do anything that's going to escalate the situation. The Iranians have said they've got some super weapon that they'll use if Israel does retaliate. I personally think that is a bluff. And the Iranians are really, there's not a lot they can do now, I think. So let's hope if the Israelis do retaliate, it is very, very focused and has an effect that doesn't kill any civilians in Iran, but has an effect to keep Iran exactly where it is. Because let's not forget, they are the axis of evil. They run Hamas, they run Hezbollah, they run the Houthis, they run pretty much everything that's going bad in the Middle East. So if they can be nullified, then that is a good thing. And
Hamish, that's the point I want to bring up. I completely agree with you. They are the axis of evil. They do absolutely support those terrorist organisations. But here's my argument about sanctions, because we've had people for the last couple of weeks saying, come on, the way to do this is to make tougher sanctions against Iran. The fact of the matter is they will continue to do business with Russia and China. I've been sat here for months and people have said to me, you're warmongering. Russia, China and Iran are the three powers the world globally should be fearing. And this is another example. I don't think sanctions are going to make that much difference at all. Do you, my friend?
No, I mean, you're right. Putin is sitting in the Kremlin with a big smile on his face, pouring as much petrol on the Middle East far as he can to keep our eyes off Ukraine. Yeah, maybe sanctions in a small way. All those drones they're making use a lot of high tech, and no doubt some of it comes from the West. But yeah, I think generally sanctions are pretty meaningless. What these tyrants respect is strength. And I think the Israelis know that. And it's something that, hopefully Cameron knows that and people sat in Westminster know that. So, yeah, we've got to stand up to these people. That's the only thing.
How, though? How? Without, I'm not... Sorry to jump in, Nick, but I mean, how do you jump in? If sanctions are a sort of a sterile way of dealing with it, how do you, without escalating and looking at this potential war in the Middle East and us getting involved in other countries, how do you deal with it?
Well, I think you have to be cool and calm. The fact that everybody's talking about Iran and perhaps its nuclear weapons and all the rest of it, it's rubbish. Iran runs through its proxies, so we must make sure those proxies like Hamas, Hezbollah and the Houthis, and also the militias in Syria and Iraq are are made sure that they cannot carry out their evil ways there and elsewhere. It is about being strong and determined. And, when we look at ourselves and our meagre defence capability at the moment, that is something we should be focusing on, perhaps, rather than talking about cigarette bans and all that and smacking and all that sort of stuff, which I'm sure is terribly important, but it's not going to stop the Russians heading west, and it's not going to stop the Iranians attacking Israel.
Hamish, what do you think this focus on relations between Iran and Israel and the attack that happened on Saturday, what do you think that means for the focus in Gaza, for the Israeli hostages that remain there over 6 months now, and for the humanitarian crisis that's taking place in Gaza?
Well, I really hope it's an opportunity. Things have got desperate in Gaza. We know that with the starvation, and we know that the Israeli hostages are still there. I think Israel now has tremendous leverage on Iran. I would hope that they'd be saying, get those hostages out. Let's get Hamas out of Gaza. Otherwise, we are going to hammer you. So I think there is a possibility of an opportunity here. And let's hope that both the Israelis and the Iranians take advantage of that, because absolutely nobody wants this war to escalate beyond that it is at the moment. And we all want peace in Gaza.
Hamish, thank you very much indeed. Former Army Colonel Hamish de Bretton-Gordon. And what an interesting thing he said as well. We're using £73 million fighter jets to fight down drones that are about to attack Israel. This entire country has been supporting, my bugbear about Ukraine, who are under fire from Russia, same axis. Why isn't that happening there? Because apparently you can't put troops or soldiers on the ground. That's a really interesting point from him. And apparently we have no military.
Well, there we go.